Hey guys, thanks for joining us tonight for the season premiere of Taboo. Stay tuned.
You're tuning into the destination for TV superfan discussion, AFTERBUZZ TV. And now, let the buzz begin.
I think this was an appropriate song for...
We know you think it's appropriate, that's why you chose it, right?
I did. I think it's appropriate. Because
I've never heard this before ever.
it's dark, it's ominous.
It's an inner white kid thing that you have going on
And
right
it's
now.
like
Like an angry, like, high school...
Actually, they're Armenian. Just
Are
to put that
they?
out there.
Well,
Interesting. Thank you.
Just to let you know, in case you wanted to know.
thanks.
I did.
So thanks for joining us, guys. We have a lot to talk about tonight on the season premiere of Taboo. I'm Abigail Fraher, and you can follow me on all social media at Abigail Fraher. And I'm joined by my lovely cast.
What's going on, everybody? I'm Olivia Gabaree. Follow me on Instagram and Twitter, The Real OG.
I'm at I Am Tehran, as if you didn't get enough of us three.
We're back.
Missing Maddie, the four horsemen in the building, at I Am Tehran, all across Instagram, Snapchat, Twitter. Please find me on the gram and the tweet. Maddie. Hi.
Okay, so he's talking the Four Horsemen, so I must be the missing link. You can find me at Instagram and Twitter at Rick Hong.
That was actually, it's kind of like anticlimactic, Rick. I expected a little more.
No, I liked
It's like,
it. I was
call
gonna
me the
say-
missing link at Rick Hong. Like, I didn't feel the oomph. I needed more oomph. Give me the
liked
Rick.
it.
Like, the big Rick Hong. You know
big
why.
Rick Hong.
Like, I wanted something. I wanted
new
something.
tagline.
Okay, here's my oomph. I am a dangerous man. It's like my worst Tom Hardy impression.
Okay, let's go
Okay,
to the
so-
show. Let's get to the show. You know,
So, you know what? We're gonna give you a pass on this episode because
Okay.
you're just, you know what? Actually, Rick's been, I think, getting acclimated very well to our banter that we
Our
have going on.
dynamic.
Yeah, he's caught up real quicker than
most.
Ava did.
Yeah, we had
Anyway,
Ava.
so,
if you saw the Golden Globes, that's the one. You should guys watch it. Check it out.
So we start in 1814 in England. So it's a pre-Victorian setting.
You had to look down to see if it was
You
in
know-
England.
No.
Should look at the date.
She
I
just
was
wants
looking
to
at the date.
confirm, like a good host would.
You know, if you're gonna roast me the whole time, get out.
You know what? This is how
Do
it
I
feels.
have the right
I
to do
get to
that?
be you, and you get to be me. Please continue.
Anyway, so stop. So what's going on right now is the War of 1812 between the United States and Britain, and pretty much I think the overall feeling that I got from this episode is just the whole series is going to be very dark, very dirty, very graphic, which I'm down for. I don't know. What do you guys feel about the overall?
It was definitely dark and
Filming of
gory,
it,
but
yeah.
I'm not sure if I'm down for it because I got pretty uncomfortable when he was sticking his fingers inside the body. and
Inside
ripping
the
it
cadaver,
apart.
I don't know. I didn't feel like it was that gory. I did feel that dark, ominous presence that
Yeah.
you're referring to, and especially the context is that James Delaney, who comes back from Africa after being gone for 7 years, and everyone presuming he's
10,
dead.
but-
10.
yeah.
So they think he's gone for 10 years, for a
I think
decade,
he's dead.
and everyone thinks he's dead.
Right.
And he comes back.
Into the funeral of his father.
And that sets the tone of the overall show with Taboo.
Right.
But what I did feel is that Tom Hardy's character, James Delaney, which Tom Hardy's a great actor, it was just basically Bane meets Jack the Ripper. There was like a combination.
And a little bit of Batman.
And that's it.
And a
And
little bit
that
of
was
Batman.
it.
He has Alfred in there.
I felt like there was an Alfred because of the butler, because of the Scottish butler. But other than that, Tom Hardy himself was just Bane sprinkled into 1800 England with some Jack the Ripper.
Okay, well, before we hate on him, I like the first taboo act that he committed was taking the coins off his father and then using them when he went into the church. I mean, are we going to keep track of these things? Or?
Well, that's because he
Wait.
persists that there is no God. Even when the cadaver is being placed back after the coroner is going through to see if it was actually... And it was actually a coroner, but it was a grave robber.
Right.
So at that time in history, grave robbers was a very lucrative business.
Right.
People used cadavers for a lot of different things. And the grave robber was able to determine that the father had been poisoned.
With arsenic.
Exactly.
Which, do you know, because I feel like you know everything, what is the...
Cure to arsenic?
No. But when someone's being poisoned...
You like that drink, by the way? Good? A little bit of arsenic. Continue.
So is that...
That's why she didn't let you pour it.
Right. Is that typically how it was? People were poisoned by beverage, or was it through food, or what was it?
It could have been either way, but I'm going to assume with the brandy habit that was brought up several times that it was through a liquid form of arsenic.
And that's why they kind of made a large point of asking Tom if you, James, if he wanted brandy
He
in
wanted
that
brandy
last
several
meeting.
times in
Right.
the meeting with
Right.
East India. And that's a big point, which I think deserves its own subtopic,
We'll
the East India.
Yeah.
But with the grave robber, the grave robber,
it's okay.
what happened is he says, well, when I rebury him, do you want me to say words over his body?
Right.
And James Delaney says, no one's listening. So basically, whatever atrocities and tragedies have happened to him while he was gone, he no longer believes that there is a God, which at the time in England in the 1800s is basically hearsay. It's heretic to even think these thoughts.
So I don't know if I don't think I really, I'm not going to disagree with you on it, but I didn't feel that he fully is committed to not believing there's a God, because he was saying things over his father's grave. Now he was spitting. Do we think those were negative
things? Those were African words. He was saying in African context. He had spent time in the Congo and Kaniba, and then he was transported on a slave ship. He was practicing a form of voodoo, which is what we saw in the dream.
Right.
He doesn't believe in God to the point where he doesn't bow his head when everyone else bows their head in words of prayer inside the church.
So I misunderstood that.
And he uses the tokens that are on the father's body as the tokens in church, which is another form of heresy. You're continuing it. Right. These are coins, and he's using them as if they are coins for the river Styx, and that's a heretic form of practice.
Okay. So after that, we get introduced to Mrs. Geary, who is Zilpha, so his sister.
Half sister.
Right. We need to make
Half-sister.
sure half-sister, because there is some serious feelings going
Incestual.
on there.
And if you've ever clicked on incest porn accidentally, you know exactly. I mean, they
I
definitely
haven't.
had.
So can you tell me about
Yeah,
They
it?
elaborate a
definitely.
little
I mean,
bit.
no, not me.
If
A
you were
friend.
to have
I don't
clicked
have
on
any
it,
sisters.
A
So.
friend of mine clicked on it. No, it just seemed that there was like a bit of sexual tension,
A
there
bit.
was.
There
To
was
the
all
point
sexual
where-
to the point where her husband
felt
stepped in.
aggressive
uncomfortable,
tension.
Yeah.
Yeah, a little bit like Luke and Leia, Empire Strikes Back.
It was more than Luke and Leia. Luke and Leia was still like a peck. These guys look like they fucked. They like proper fuck.
Like proper.
Like,
Well, that's an English term.
childbearing.
I feel like we should just, because there's
Possibly.
bits of this throughout the whole episode, so let's just handle this whole topic right now so we don't have to go back to it.
Sure.
Do we think that her husband, I don't think he's aware that they necessarily
Fornicated?
have had sex, but he feels off about something.
Or he definitely feels like the guy's a threat.
Yes. And I don't know if he's feeling like it's a threat because it's her brother, it's a threat because he's the heir, it's a threat because he wants to take over what the father left, or if it's a threat because he does have this intuition that there is someone there to take his place sexually as well.
Or it's all of the above.
And that
Or
plus,
everything.
it seems like the whole town has an understanding
Right.
about him, because they have all these negative things and they have all these rumors and thoughts about him that they're not really sure if they're rumors or if they're true. So I think the way that he stormed into his father's funeral, it confirms a lot of things, but led him to believe some things are true about him, and that made him uncomfortable.
Well, he clearly comes off as a man to fear, if not respect.
Right.
He's very diligent in his ways. He's very aggressive, but with a calm undertone, which actually is
aggression, I think. Like, it's...
But that's almost
Makes it
scary.
scary. Yeah,
That's what makes it
exactly.
scarier.
Right.
Reserved anger.
I feel like the...
whispers the whole time.
Right. Which is sexy.
Of course you think it's Tom Hardy. Trust me.
mean-
If some random guy was like,
If you were doing it, no, I would have...
hey everyone, this is how I talk all the time. My father's the light of my father's foreshine. Like, you'd be like, get away from me, psycho.
Yeah, but I guess I felt like the underlying, not even maybe underlying, but theme of the whole thing is that there are people acting crazy and acting irrational, and yet they're the ones calling Tom Hardy or James the crazy irrational one, when in reality he's the one that has his shit together the most. He's the one that's the most controlled. He's the one that is the most calculated and has everything under control, including his actions.
They call him a savage because he went to Africa and spent
Right.
so much time with
I'm
the
aware.
Negroes.
And that would
and his actions, but it also is in the manner of which he is speaking to the people that he's speaking to.
Right.
So, especially at the time, even now in England, there's a huge hierarchy.
Right, and a respect that he's not showing.
And he's not showing. And the candor that he's speaking is very, in English society, very low class. English society, the peasants and the commoners spoke very frankly, and that was a luxury of the royalties that they did not. in a way, created aristocracy through vocabulary and bureaucracy.
Right.
And so when you see that, there's a stark contrast between James Delaney and the members of the East India Company. And that's why, are we done talking about the sister and sister?
I mean,
because
unless we want
I wanted to talk about that kid.
Oh,
I felt
yeah,
like,
well, that was...
Oh, are we going to jump for...
Let's do it. Let's do it. We can go
Okay.
out of
'Cause
out
that's
of order
the-
because
that's
these
their-
are huge topics that I feel like if we sprinkle them around, it's just going to be a cluster.
So I thought that the kid that James Delaney finds the address and goes and finds is the kid between the sister and James.
Exactly, but it seems like after I
See,
mean,
I didn't
I'm not
think
gonna
that.
say I thought that the
Now
whole
it makes
time
sense.
it made sense just by the manner in which he acted when he saw the kid. He wanted nothing to do
He
with
was
him.
disgusted.
Almost just wanted to see that he existed and he was alive and whatever. But was it clear to you that his father was the one that was responsible for this kid? Not like he was taking care of him, but he was the one that passed him off to this family.
And that is why I didn't think right away that it was his kid because I
Right.
thought it was the father's kid.
Because the,
Like
the
some
father had a bunch of
random-
wives
yeah.
and things going on.
And he was
so-
crazy and he maybe couldn't care for the third child on his own or something.
But
Right.
now, was he really crazy though? It seems like everyone's
no.
calling
The
both
poison.
him
Now
the arsenic
and
makes
James
you crazy.
Yeah, but it seems like they're calling them all crazy because they're
they're
outside of the norm. They're not following the way that the culture
exactly.
asks them to follow. So therefore, if you're not understanding someone, you're automatically writing them off as crazy because they're not like you.
And it's not even that they're not understanding them; it's that they're going against
The grain.
and
Right.
against the monarchy, and then that's
Well, not the monarchy. The East India Company is actually bigger than the monarchy as time persists. The East India Company is the first.
Are they at this point though?
They are becoming extremely powerful. Yes, at this
Okay.
point, so they were established in the 1600s.
Right.
So the East India Company is the first corporation on the planet, and it sets the tone for other modern corporations. It's basically like having the biggest, like Google, and a lot of people don't know Google and the government's connections, but it's like Google the
runs the
CIA,
government.
the NSA, and having basically a hit squad on your team. They took over India.
Right.
Had their own private mercenaries, their own private armies. They're responsible for a lot of catastrophe in the world for the capitalistic greed of their board members and accumulated more than wealth, as far wealthiest company on the planet, power. They had a lot of power.
Right.
And they were not above murdering competition. They were not above slavery. They were not above, they did everything plus. Things that we will never find out. That's why when we were watching and you asked, is this based on a real person? I was like, they would never do that. East India Trading Company is basically the Illuminati. You throw in
So
some
everything's
Rothschilds
super low-key.
and you're done. Yeah. Like it's, they would never be like, this is the person's life we're
Right.
depicting.
But there are pieces of obviously
Of truth.
historical truth
It's
in
based
it.
on
Yeah.
something.
So James finds out that basically he inherited this land from the lawyer,
The Nootka Sound.
the Nootka Sound, which is an actual
Piece of
sound
land.
in Canada, and it had a huge play in trading and in the War of 1812 and with America and Britain. And actually it started, I believe the first like issue with it was in the 1700s with Spain and I'm having a brain
Spain and
cramp. But
something
anyway,
else.
so it's always been a piece of land that has been highly
It's
necessary
valuable.
and valuable. And the lawyer tries to throw it off as like, oh, it's just this piece of rock land.
It's gonna cause you a lot
need
more
it,
headache than you need,
And
yeah.
as soon as somebody does that to you, if it really was worthless, you wouldn't be jumping on it, being like, it's worthless. It's worthless.
It's worthless. I'll do you
I'll
a
do you a
favor.
favor.
Yeah,
I'll take
just
care
take
of
that
it.
off
You know.
your hands.
So James knows something's up, obviously, and then we go to this basically this meeting where the lawyer meets with. Who do we think these people were all of the East India
They're
Trading
the East
Company?
India Trading Company. This is the board. This is the board
okay.
that's assigned to this.
Okay, so I said council, but basically same thing.
And they are trying to dictate to James Delaney how to get that piece of land from him. And here's the thing: the secret is James has made apparently a fortune in Africa.
right.
That pouch that he gives
Right.
to,
It is a lot of
it's
money.
a lot of change back, especially for back then
Right.
when coins were were the currency,
Right.
and it's a bag of it, and you see the immediate tone change.
Right.
He goes
And
from
he's also said-
"You're a lying
Sir,
Delaney"
Mr.
to
No, he also- right.
Mr. Delaney.
And he also, I mean, the thing is, you gotta think about how much that's worth too, because he goes, here's for the past, here's for the present,
And the future.
For the future.
It's like, dude, how much can you sit there and say like what the future is gonna be
Right.
in a pouch? But you're clearly
Well,
right.
they plundered Africa and probably made a fortune. So
So when they were going over James's history in that meeting, I feel like the lawyer, what was his name? Thoit. Thank you, Mr. Thoit stood
Jonathan Price.
up for him, stood up for James more than
not Jonathan Price.
you
No,
don't-
I don't think
you
so.
didn't- More
He's-
than anyone else did.
I don't think he stood up for James. He
Well,
was
or for
under the-
himself more
he
so,
was
so
under-
he could get the sound.
He understood the legal ramifications of what they were attempting to do. That there would be. So when you conspire to conspire, right? The concept of a conspiracy is that it cannot be found out.
Right.
Had they conspired, they would have been found out. That would be the problem. So Thoit was avoiding that.
Okay.
He was basically saving his and all of their asses by saying, we can't do this because I don't have this. I don't have the treaty. He would get the land anyway.
Because he
by
is
default.
right.
So this would be a lengthy battle. We have to figure something else out.
out. Okay. And so we find out a little bit about James' history. That he was what company was he in? Was it school? Was it a
The company is a school. So
school?
the
Okay.
brigade, the East India Brigade, is
East
a very
India Brigade, right.
prestigious company, form of boarding school.
right.
Any child that goes there is clearly going to be a part of the aristocracy. Now we look at the army like, oh, I joined the army as if it's low class. Especially in England at that time, being any type of ranking officer in the army, in which he turned out to be a corporal, I believe.
Yes.
Wow, that's an amazing feat that took a high level of not only education, but leadership, attitude, skill set, which is why we see that report card come out and everything says
Right.
exceptional.
Right. He
yeah.
excelled, and then all of a sudden he was doing these things that I feel like adolescent boys do.
Starts rebelling.
Rebellion.
I disagree. I disagree that he did something that was normal and rebellious.
Maybe breaking necks isn't normal, but playing with fire is normal.
But what
Mashed potatoes
Getting
and oil.
drunk
Mashed
is
potatoes and
normal.
oil.
I think he was and is still running away from something, and that
Yeah.
could have been the fact that he found out that his mother
his mom.
was not from Italy, which would have already been a foreign presence, but is actually a native, and therefore, or as an Indian as they referred, a native, and was purchased by his father, which is, in a way, it takes away from his
Greatness.
concept of blue blood,
Right.
but it also takes away from the concept of parenthood. You would never want to know that your parents weren't actually in love, but your mother was purchased
For gunpowder.
for gunpowder and some beads and land, and it was just it could be a very detrimental piece of knowledge to any young man, especially a man who's this proud, obviously.
Well, and I'm looking forward to seeing what happened to his mom and all of that situation, because I feel like he's very defensive of his mother, like where he corrected the butler, who we find out is like really James's only friend or confidant in the whole situation, but he corrected him when he called her Anna, and he's like, no, her
Salish.
name is Salish, yeah, and
My
so
mother's name is
Eh,
Sadish.
how do we? Okay, so do we think he really? How did he come to know all this stuff?
Well, from what he said, his father told him in a moment of drunken stupor. Why do we know that? Because he says we don't talk about this when we've
Been
drank
drinking
some
brandy. Okay.
Brandy that is off the ships that his father owns, especially shipping back then. Import export in that time, even now, but especially then, was the most lucrative
Lucrative
form
business, right?
of business.
Is it clear though if his mom's dead? Is it clear that she's dead, or maybe when
No.
he went, maybe when he went there, she told him everything, or he found her? And
Because
that's why
because I don't know how clear it was that he told him drunkenly, because he also, because the butler was like, he would say that all when he was lighting the fires on the shore. So then I thought he was just kind of playing off of that, like, oh, I heard him. Like, obviously he didn't really hear him.
Or there's always the sister's mother. You know, sometimes they get like what I forget what they get animosity towards the child that's not there. So maybe she like We haven't introduced to her either yet, or if she's still alive or not. But I could always see like a stepmom being like, "And by the way, you little bastard kid, you're this and that."
Just
and
taking away his worth and making it seem like her family was more prominent, and he was just kind of like,
I don't know.
not an orphan, but
I don't know if they were super clear with that. But what made you think they were super clear with that? Because I maybe was completely reading it all
I felt
wrong.
within the conversation, it's an up to interpretation and assumption.
Yeah.
I felt that, first of all, the mothers are dead. I felt that the sister and him didn't have as much upbringing together as it seems, which may have led to the sexual relationship they might have had. That they weren't raised in the same household. Maybe he would come home for summers from company, and and to him, this is just
a girl,
and they were under the same roof.
Okay.
We also know that he has an interesting sexual habit, as we see later with him and inside the whorehouse, which is his father's docking and offices.
Which leads us to
So,
that.
I mean, I
Does
just
he have
feel
it? Why
these
do you think he has an interesting
sex life?
habit? Yeah.
Because she says to him, the queen mother of the den says to him, the rumor is basically if a girl goes with you, she'll never come back. And he says, yes, that's true. And it goes hand in hand with the rumors
So what do you think those rumors are?
that he's a vicious, savage human being.
And just kills.
And he's not past killing, because he even threatens to kill several times, let alone the men that the queen mother threatens to send after him.
Right. Which I like that scene.
That was I actually really like the show. I know
Yeah.
a lot of people didn't like the show. I like the show. I think it's interesting. I think it's fun.
It keeps your attention the whole time.
I enjoyed it.
Yeah.
Rick, did you like the show
Did
as
you
much
like
as
the
I
show?
did? Because I feel like I feel like you don't even like yourself right now, bro.
No, man. I like the show. I mean, it's Ridley Scott produced. I'm a big fan of Tom Hardy. I kind of do agree with
And
you.
his father,
His father and him actually came up with the concept for the show.
Yeah, Chips
Chips,
Hardy.
yes.
That's a great name.
I wonder who wrote the word nigger like 4 times in that show. That's what I want to know.
Stephen Knight probably.
I want to know who wrote that, because they used that, and I understand why they used it, but
It was like it was used a lot for being not a
Thorne
movie even
said it a
about
little too
slaves,
comfortably.
too. Like
it was
Not
about.
yet.
it was the context was,
point,
but it's
but
not
not
like
yet.
a.
But it would have been very common
not-
in England at that time. And this, from what I saw, it was very historically accurate, as in the portrayal of
depiction
what
of
we
what-
see,
okay.
what it's supposed to be. Even the stew, if you remember, is in that big bucket, just
Disgusting.
clearly disgusting, right next to where everyone's peeing. You don't know if they're throwing in shit from the
Right.
bucket
There's
or.
horses there. I mean, it was disgusting.
But that's what.
Right. That's what England. That's what I said. Like England at that time was it was pre-Victorian, so it wasn't like this beautiful
Extravagant
Georgian
place.
thing that we like think about in a lot of the romance movies, or I don't know.
And no cobbled streets.
Yeah, no, but pre all that. Okay, so I had what's a boy. Okay, so then we found out the father was poisoned by arsenic, which we already spoke about. What was the scene in the morgue when he was going crazy? Was that all in his head?
Yes.
That's what I thought, because when it cut back to
Think
it,
of
the sheets were
PTSD.
all over everybody else. Okay.
Think of PTSD.
Well, because the man
Okay.
was black that he was like talking about, and that was
And-
chained down. Right.
Right.
And he just had come from Africa, and PTSD of his experience. We don't really know exactly what his
On a slave
experience
ship, it
was.
looked like
yeah.
something,
On a
an
slave
experience on a slave ship
Yes.
that
And
seemed
that
to have a
he
revolt,
did-
possibly.
And I feel like he feels some type of way about what he's done. He knows the things he's done have not been right, because you even find himself saying, talking to himself, making excuses for actions. Like, everyone's done these things, and like, I had to do these, everyone's a slave, and basically trying to minimize, I think, what he's maybe done.
Well, justifying it,
Or-
because
yes.
he has, guilt, which is probably why this imagination he's.
Well, it's
is
also
actually-
like when he was. I mean, it could be a part of like when he was with the East. And, like we see him telling Jonathan Pryce at the end. He's just like, "I know the type of guy you are, because like I worked underneath you." So like maybe it's that guilt too, not just on his own.
I think that's just a preemptive strike at, you train me, and now I'm more savage than you are. Be aware and beware. I think that what we see is PTSD and the guilt. Actually, to me, James Delaney is the one who shows the most respect to Africa,
Yeah.
to if you see how with such respect he speaks about his mother and her tribe, to natives, I feel like he feels a connection. So I think that storyline will unfold, and it's not going to be what we think that it is.
Well, it could also be which I just thought of is, they said the ship sunk off. He was on a slave ship when it sunk and when they thought he died. So maybe it could be PTSD from the ship sinking. Like he didn't save people that were chained up, or I don't know. Like you don't know. You don't know.
We don't know. We
don't.
will find out. I mean,
We
your
will.
guess is as good as mine. I
is.
just think my guess is much better.
Okay. Anyway, so to the meeting where he meets with all of those people. Basically, they come out and they're just very open with him about the importance of the sound. I mean, why?
They weren't. I don't think they were that open with him. I mean,
I don't think they could have been more open.
They
yeah, but
weren't
he was
open.
very.
You
He
don't
was
think
He
very
had all the
knowledgeable.
information.
Yeah.
He was
But they
like,
told him how important it was.
They did not.
So they wanted to downplay it to him because
Yeah.
they thought they could be smarter than him and sort of trick him into giving it to him. But
And then
as
he
we
gave them
saw,
all the information.
He brought the value to the table, being like, actually, I know you want it because this is the key to China. This is the
Vancouver.
path.
Vancouver's the key to China.
Right.
And this is the key to Vancouver.
this is the
And
yes.
there's a secret meeting between the United States and Britain
Right.
in Ghent, which did happen and go down, and that's actually how the War of 1812 was resolved. So it's just an interesting. He stops them quick. He even says, "Listen, I don't like hypocrisy. All this 'how are you' bullshit. We're gonna stop this right here, buddy." Basically, I know what's going on. This is my piece of land. You guys want this little piece of land, and it's not just valuable to you. It's valuable to the
Everyone.
monarchy, and it's
Right.
valuable to the United States of America. I'm gonna hold on to it. And he puts money. He's like, "No, I'm good."
Just open the envelope.
They painted it as a picture of loyalty, being like,
Right.
if you want to be loyal to,
He doesn't care. Why would he care about loyalty? He hasn't spent any time there.
Well, exactly, but that's why he brought up the fact that the United States and them were having like secret talks and meetings for peace and to resolve the war, when they were really just presenting it to him as, this is what you need to do for your country to be loyal
we
to
need
us,
this,
and
right.
we need this.
You're right.
Well, I think this episode is called possibly The Patriot or something of that nature. I'm not 100% sure,
positive.
but I don't think that it has anything to do with him being patriotic. I think it's a threat. It's a threat saying the monarchy will be behind us. So if I were you, I'd play your cards right and just take the little settlement before us, the most powerful corporation in the world, and them, the most powerful kingdom in the world,
right.
go to war with you, some guy that just got back from Africa that no one really knows. And that's what it was. It wasn't like be loyal to the crown. It's like be afraid
is
of
a
the crown.
threat, right.
Be
That
afraid
was
of the
like
crown.
the underlying. They were saying something without actually saying something. Do you get what I'm saying? Like they were implying.
You're actually saying something without saying nothing right
No,
now.
yeah, I think
So
that's
we get
smarter.
it by
Yeah,
the
we got
example
it.
you
We got
showed
the
us.
undertones.
smarter
I got
than
you.
that.
I got you. Don't
Just-
do it. You're doing it too.
I'm not doing anything.
You know exactly
We
what
do.
I mean.
I
They know
do.
they're having a conversation without actually having
You
a
know,
Subtle.
conversation.
I
Subtlety.
understand.
Subtlety.
Until he brought it to the table, being like, you know something.
I completely
know what you're
understand the
trying to do.
sentimentality of
Be
your
quiet,
statement.
Whatever.
So we have 2 minutes. So we basically end with this very fat man being told that he can have let loose, basically, on James.
And his look was actually
He's like-
the worst acting was his look at the end when he was going to be evil.
He was like excited.
I'm not gonna. He was a heavy set.
I said fat lard. Is what I wrote.
He was a heavy set man, but the look he gave was like cookies. Like it wasn't deadly. It wasn't.
I wasn't
James
scared.
Delaney, Tom Hardy was deadlier at any given point
right.
in this. Even when he was saying, "I love you" to his own
was
sister.
scared, right.
Yeah, it was scary. And then at that point, he could have said A B C D E F G,
Okay.
and everyone would have been like, "Oh my God, the alphabet!" Like he could have said anything, it would have been scary.
Tom Hardy is doing a bomb job, I think, in this.
It's great. They had a lot of talent in this
Yeah.
one show. I mean, these were highly trained, skilled British actors and actresses, European actors and actresses. I think it comes up short. I think that the
it's episode
storyline
1.
comes
Let's
up
give
short.
it.
It's only a premiere. Premiere's always tough to do. Pilots are tough
Premiere
to do.
sets
Sets
the
the
tone,
tone. I
of the
understand.
show. But I like the show. I like the show. I see what they're trying to do. I can understand people's criticism of the show as well, which is you had like 20 nominations in one scene, and it didn't pull it off, and that's what it is.
Well,
it's the cookie look.
I think too. Also, maybe they're trying very hard to compete with other shows in a similar genre. I mean, it's definitely. I mean, FX has so many amazing shows. So
FX is killing it right now.
They're killing it. So I mean, they're trying to do something else, and I feel like this was kind of trying. I don't know. We'll see.
Trying too hard? It's okay not to like a show. I like it.
I like it too, but I think I felt a little like a.
It's also,
cheaper,
I mean, you gotta keep in mind too, it's also a
but-
joint production with the BBC.
Right.
It's like the first, like, other than Peaky Blinders, which is like BBC and Netflix.
Which is a great show.
Right.
When you got those two type of things come like going hand in hand, you got to like a lot of cooks in the kitchen.
But I feel like it felt a little short of like a Games of Thrones feeling with the sexual vibes.
The incestual.
They're trying, but they haven't quite gone there. Like,
because she seemed more afraid than he seemed turned on.
But even with the hookers and the horrors and all that, it was just like, okay, naked bodies. Like, it wasn't like, if you want to, like,
then do it.
Do it. If you're gonna do it fully. So that's all I can say is maybe they're gonna try a little harder and.
Yeah, don't just play just the tip. Do it fully. You know, just the tip. That's not enough.
Anyway, what are your predictions for next week?
Predictions for next week. Oh. I'm still like digesting the pilot and the premiere. It's like I haven't even thought about like next week yet, to be honest.
I think they're gonna use the word nigger like 3 more times, and then they're gonna kind of.
We should play a drinking game.
Just like every time they say it, we just kind of go. No, I actually didn't mind the use of the word, even though I do feel like it was a little extra. And next week, I think that what's gonna happen is we're going to learn a little more of East India's plot against James Delaney. More so than we are going to learn about James Delaney's mysterious, ominous past.
Okay.
Yeah, I don't think I was gonna predict violence, but I don't think that's gonna be the case yet. Definitely later down the road, but it seems like the East India Company is definitely plotting something, and we have to see a little bit of more insight to that. But I also think we're gonna learn a little bit more about James as we go along, and not necessarily that he's crazy, but a little bit of insight toward why he acts the way he does.
I would agree with you, and yeah, I think we're going to see a little more of a political game than maybe
stuff to pop up off.
Yeah. I also think that Zilpha, because it closed on her sending another letter separate from the one she sent originally, and we see him burning it. So I think he does respect her on a certain level of not wanting to tarnish her for sleeping with him, but I think that that's only going to go to a certain point, and I think it's going to come out at some point.
Yeah, it did come out. They have a son.
Okay, but
came out.
It didn't come out.
You're done.
It didn't.
Anyway.
Oh, but it came out.
Thanks for joining us tonight, guys. We hope you enjoyed it, and go ahead and comment below. We love to read them, and go ahead and give us some likes and some feedback. I'm Abigail Fraher, and you can follow me on all social media at Abigail Fraher.
And I'm Olivia Gabaree. Follow me on Instagram and Twitter, The Real OG.
At I am Tehran, the bathrobe heartthrob, all across social media, Snapchat, Instagram, Twitter. Please find me at I am Tehran. If you don't know how to spell Tehran, just watch CNN.
And I'm no longer the missing link. You can find me on Instagram and Twitter at Rick Hong.
That's what I'm talking about with enthusiasm.
Question. It's not that hard to be the heartthrob when you're the only one wearing your bathrobe out in public, is it?
2 donuts away, huh?
We'll see
2
you guys
donuts
next
away.
week. Thank you.
Snap.
Say bye to the chin. 2 donuts away.
From executive producers Maria Menounos, Kevin Undergaro, Phil Svitek, and the entire AfterBuzz TV staff, we would like to thank you for listening to the AfterBuzz TV network. To watch or listen to other after shows and post comments or questions, be sure to visit AfterBuzzTV.com. I'm Sir Richard Wentworth, and this has been a presentation of AfterBuzz TV.
Buzz you later.
The views expressed herein are those of the hosts only and do not necessarily reflect the views of AfterBuzz TV or its owners or principals.